So Norman Osborn did an invasion. He came in here, he roughed us up a little bit. Professor Ken kicked him to the curb, and we're good to go again now. So the redemption story comes back. Luke Cage is now the hero redeemer. Takes these new squads of prisoners, and prisoners they are. Most of the time they're trying to escape. They're trying to change the dynamic. They're trying to sometimes kill Luke Cage. This starts to feed into fear with Thor's uncle coming back and fear itself.
Yeah, that event.
And so that event, put a stink in a bunch of books.
Yeah.
T-Bolts was not unaffected by it. And so, we lose characters like the Juggernaut who had joined and that. But this then revamps into a new group. They decide some people aren't going to work, so they bring in some new people again. And that's what I do like about Thunderbolts. You can keep getting rid of one or two of them, keep a core, and keep adding. So it very much was the opposite of the Avengers. I mean, it definitely was their counterpart. At this point, I think I'm going to speak for John a little bit here. I think the Marvel company lost faith in writers or something. Because at this point, then, the storylines get into time travel, dimension jumping, and anything to keep them away from touching the Marvel core. And so at this point, we get to some of the books that I know John hates the most.
Hate the most. It's true. It's a good group of people, you guys, with Juggernaut and everybody on deck. But you get, we're getting into the realm now of, Mr. Hyde, blah, 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 time travel this, alternate reality that. There's one issue that just pits one team of Thunderbolts against the other, and it's just holy smokes. But just it's a fun group, you guys. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I just don't agree with why we can't take these awesome characters and interact with the rest of the Marvel U and tie them in and give them an appropriate place in the universe. We just didn't really see that with this line of them. So it was a fun read. I was just kind of along for the ride, I felt like at that point. Would have loved to have had even more Songbird than what was actually in there.
Yeah.
She cut her hair short. I don't know about that either.
This was also where they tried to kick off the Dark Avengers again. Once again, this had potential. Norman Osborn has escaped from jail. He has a cult-like following of people that want to make sure that he is a leader of a group like a Hydra or a Leviathan or something along those lines. And at this point, everything that could have been falters again. Thunderbolts beat the Dark Avengers, and we end up seeing, they keep trying to kick out new first issues or trying to re-jump off of a point that I just don't think was there.
Mm-hmm. No, I would agree with that. This, the reboot of the Dark Avengers that we're looking at here, you guys, is... it's pale in comparison, first of all. The only cool part I felt of the whole thing was Ragnarok was pretty brutal when he beat Avengers down pretty much by himself, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But I was really disappointed in Scar's Son of Hulk's betrayal on there. I was pretty disappointed about that because how cool would it have been to have a legit evil Hulk. Those are two of my favorite covers. One was the first issue, 175, when they premiered in the Thunderbolts issue, whereas Mike has the new Avengers one where they started rolling this concept out with the Norman political cover. I like that one. We want you. If I could, I would probably hang that up at my desk at work, actually.
All right.
So, I don't know. It was an exciting time at first, you guys, but as the story drug on, we had a cast of characters that, again, D-list, but they're pretty super cool, and some of them actually came from the Osborn Incarcerated series, a 4-issue miniseries that I had issues 1 through 3 of, and I stopped reading it because I was like, this is stupid. And then it turns out that, hey, this is the jumping on point for some of these really kind of fun characters. So I haven't gotten issue 4 yet. I don't think I will, but just based on how this whole thing ends. I will say the only thing that really came out of this series as a positive was the Doxy Scarlet Witch spin-off character, because she was pretty cool and it was something new. And I wish they would have done more with her. Also, I would have liked to have known Trickshot better. Those are two characters that really got downplayed, in my opinion.
Trickshot was Clint Barton's brother, which we see later on in the Hawkeye Matt Fraction run. It was Hawkeye and his brother that were injured, where they jabbed the arrows into Hawkeye's ears, and his brother, I believe, they put in a wheelchair, or they injured him. They at least injured him severely. So, which seems to be, I guess, a repeated common theme. It was Norman Osborn picked him up after Hawkeye himself had brutalized his brother to such an extent that he was comatose in the hospital. There were some things that they never revealed during that series on where did Norman get all of his power. At one point, he was getting more and more Superman-like. He could fly. He was strong, resistant. There was, all these things where he was bringing people out of comas, and there was more to this story that, like I said, I felt then that they lost. And that was the tragedy of it. There was a time where I was getting covers like this, a storyline of these Dark Thunderbolts, and it was weird how they did kind of change the numbering. They went from Thunderbolts right into Dark Avengers. They put number 1, but then it was really Dark Avengers 170 whatever. And it was the Thunderbolts. They just put Dark Avengers on there, so then you were having trouble figuring out which comics were which, and it continued to feed along. We got to the time jumping part of it, and at that point, John could take no more.
I couldn't, you guys. So this is a first, on Late to the Party channel here. So I apologize if we offend any of your viewers, but this is a tradition that we like to do on a comic book look. Ken is new enough to the show that he hasn't watched this episode.
No.
And he hasn't. Yeah, this is Stuff of Legends right here. So I was so pissed off at the first issue of this new run of quote-unquote Thunderbolts of Red Hulk and Punisher and Elektra and blah, blah, blah. And I read issues 1 and 2 and kind of got fed up and used some choice language that I'm not allowed to use on this channel, so I'm not going to. But what I can tell you is that I still have the remains of what happened to them last time, so we're just going to recreate it on this side. And I'm actually going to, have Mike definitely join me in creating... This is a tradition we call the Lazarus Pit, and this is where you take a comic that's just god-awful and you drown it. You drown it in bad beer. In our case, we already did that once, so we're not even allocating real beer for this stunt because we're short today. But this is the Lazarus Pit. And then these are the 2 victims from the last Lazarus Pitting. And this is issues 1 and issues 2, and they're really crispy and slightly moldy and disgusting. So,
Toss them in.
Toss them in.
At this point, Red Hulk has taken over the Thunderbolts. He has set up a system of, if you do a favor for me, we'll do a favor for you. So in these Thunderbolt issues,
I'll have you do the honor.
It seemed like a very ill-conceived idea of that they decided to put all their names in a hat, so they would do something for Thunderbolt Ross, and he would draw the name out. So it was the Agent Venom, it was Punisher, Elektra. They ended up with Deadpool also as part of this group, and they end up with the Red Leader. And they end up taking one name out, and it actually felt more like filler issues on those times where, the Punisher, he wanted to kill some villains that were just gangsters, just mobsters. And so I don't know why you really needed the Hulk and all the superpowers to do that. That fed into the space invasion attack at that point. They kept jumping between different artists, and it was killing me. It was, when I think back, I'm looking at some of mine. I was trying to think if I had one. Soul was actually writing even for a while there. And then Acker and Blacker was doing it, and then I couldn't even tell you what artist because they kept jumping from issue to issue to issue on a different artist. I got all excited. Phil Noto was on 5 of them, and then boom, he was gone. And they even got to the point where then they started doing the gimmicks. This one is Punisher versus Thunderbolts. This was the last run of it, and at this point, Punisher decides to quit. Somebody blows up his home, thinking they killed him. He believed it was the Red Hulk, so he decides to go through and eliminate each Thunderbolt so that Ross would be all by himself. It was just, it was at least an ending. I'll give it that. It was definitely not my favorite. It was.
Don't settle.
Yeah, and I did.
You want to throw those in there?
No, there were times where I was truly buying them only because I like the Thunderbolts. At that point, I'd fallen in love with the series. When Dylan was doing the artwork, I was truly disgusted by it. Those are the main ones that Johnny has drowned.
Yeah.
And I could take no more. And so Thunderbolts are now done. And I don't know, coming out of Secret Wars, that we are going to see them. I have not heard anything throughout any of the news that even hints at Thunderbolts. But it's an easy concept to pick back up, and I could see them using it once again whenever they have some villains that they want to use and show, if they want to kick out something with some D-listers.
Yeah.
So, as you can see, this is just one of those times where we found something, started something, learned about something that you maybe you like or love. There were times that we enjoyed it, runs that we loved it, times where we were upset by it. So that just leaves me with this pile of books, a ton of digital, and a Lazarus Pit. So
Lazarus Pit, shout out.
That is all I got left to say on the Thunderbolts. So a moment of silence for these guys. Continue to support your community. Thank everybody for the videos you do make. Follow these young gentlemen on a comic book look, and soon to hopefully be released
A Doctor Who look.
a Doctor Who look.
It's coming.
Out the gate. Yeah.
So definitely for everything nerdy, enjoyable, all the books we love and read, continue to watch videos. Thank you. Catchphrase.
That's right.